Bear is one of those rare shows that make you forget you're watching a TV show. Instead, it feels like you're a fly on the wall, a rather cinematic fly, or you're observing through CCTV and watching the real events of a dysfunctional family running a chaotic kitchen as they unfold. It doesn't feel like a carefully constructed drama, and it feels more like the camera's never actually directing what's going on, it's just lucky to witness it, and so are we. And I think that's a massive credit to both the writers and the actors. The writing and performances are so convincing that the characters stop feeling like characters and start feeling like real people. And because it feels so authentic, every moment lands so much harder. It's like Inside Out for adults, because all the strong emotions are given room to exist. Joy, grief, anger, anxiety, no character is reduced to a singular feeling. To put it simply before I dive in deeper, The Bear is one of the most emotionally charged shows I've ever seen. Whether it's a heated argument fueled by grief, or how the most intimate moments are shared in whispers captured by close-up camera shots, or even the way the characters look at each other that communicates so much more than words can. So today, I'm going to talk about this show, and what makes it as special as it is, and why I think it's one of the most remarkable TV shows ever made. So without further ado, I'm Kate from Friendly Fire, and this is The Bear. On the surface, The Bear is about a chef trying to save his late brother's sandwich shop, but beneath the food, the stress, the Michelin stars, and the chaos, it's a story about family, about grief, about purpose, and above all else, about people trying to show they care in the only way they know how. Food is how this family says, "I love you." Not because they're incapable of saying it, the words "I love you" are spoken multiple times throughout the series, but the feeling behind them is shown far more than it's told. The characters in The Bear are emotionally guarded people, because grief, trauma, pride, they've all made vulnerability difficult. Expressing how they truly feel rarely comes easily, and food gives them a way to express it, because it's something they're all familiar with, and one of the common denominators between them. The more I rewatch the series, the more I realise that almost every significant relationship finds its way back to food. For instance, when Carmy cooks for Donna, it's an example of when food becomes a language. He can't tell his mum how he's feeling, but he cares about her, and he loves her. So what does he do? He cooks for her. If that's not love, then I don't know what is. The same idea appears elsewhere near the end of season 1. After the fallout and review, Sydney and Marcus are hanging out, and it's warm, comforting, and rooted in friendship. It's not complicated and haunted by things left unspoken, they're just sharing something they love away from the pressure of the kitchen. They're completely different relationships with different histories, but the gesture is the same. It's a declaration of love in its purest form. If you love someone, in whatever way, cooking is one of the most beautiful ways you can show it. Family is the beating heart of this series, but it's not just something the characters always have. As the series progresses, it becomes something they build. We know that the main Berzattos are Donna, Carmy, Natalie, and Mikey, but that's only by blood. When we get to Fishes, we discover that the family runs much deeper than that. Richie, Tiff, Uncle Jimmy, and the Facts aren't related to the Berzattos in any way, yet they're treated exactly like they are. And if it wasn't specified, I don't think it would be obvious. The Bear constantly asks what makes someone family: blood, history, loyalty, or simply the choice to stay. And as the series progresses, it becomes much more than Mikey's family business, it becomes a found family business. By the end, the characters that started as strangers to us, and some strangers to each other, are family. Even the characters that come in late, like Luca, Jessica, and Garrett, become part of the Berzattos. And I love that. That's how strong the love is, even if it's not always prominent. One of the best scenes comes in Bears. By the end, almost everyone we've grown to love over the past 4 seasons, along with some new faces, finds themselves sat under a table sharing uncomfortably intimate conversations, and you can see just how loving the Berzattos are, and how easily they welcome everyone in. The restaurant itself behaves like a member of the family as well, and the environment that characters inhabit reflect their emotional states. At the start, the restaurant is extremely dysfunctional, and you look at the people in it, so are they. In the pilot, the kitchen is filthy, the screen is constantly cluttered with colours, ingredients, plates, Tupperware, and stains covering every visible surface. It's not just a workplace, it's a visual representation of the relationships inside it. And that same idea pops up again in Fishes. The whole episode is tense and chaotic. There are people everywhere, foods everywhere, lights, decorations, there's something cluttered about every frame. Why? Because of the relationships unfolding and clashing within those frames. When the restaurant is suffering, it's usually because of some unspoken turmoil, and when they all heal, so does the restaurant. It's been with the Berzattos for as long as we know, and we're not shown a time when the beef wasn't involved in the family. But none of that would matter without the characters that made this feel real. They're the reason this family feels less like a cast of television characters and more like people we've somehow been lucky to know. Every character in the beef feels like a complete person. They don't represent one singular emotion or personality trait, and they aren't defined by narrative purpose. They grow, they change, they make mistakes. They're human. Carmy isn't just a Michelin star chef who comes back to take over his brother's restaurant. He's someone who strives for perfection until it eventually breaks him. He's riddled with grief and anxiety that he doesn't know how to properly deal with, so he pours every ounce into the thing that he loves until he doesn't love it anymore. His past and his unresolved grief drive every decision he makes. He comes to the beef because he feels like it's the only way he can fix what happened with Mikey.
Because it was in rough shape, and I think it's very clear that me trying to fix the restaurant was me trying to fix whatever was happening with my brother.
But as the series progresses and the restaurant grows, he forgets why he loved cooking in the first place, because it was the only true common ground that he and his brother shared. So when he decides to leave, it's not because he's disappointed with how the bear turned out, but because he feels like he's finally lived up to his brother's legacy, and now he can begin to take care of himself. He's created a place where people feel loved and welcome, just like Mikey did with the beef, because Carmy isn't just an angry, unstable chef either, and reducing him to that completely misses the point of his character. He cares and he loves, but it's much more subtle, and by the end of the show he's grown so much. He cares deeply for the people around him and wants to push them to do better and be better at what they're already great at. Even when he struggles to say how he feels, his actions leave no doubt. Perhaps the clearest example of struggle comes when Carmy becomes trapped in the freezer. Locked away from everyone else, he spirals, convincing himself that he's ruining everything around him. He pushes Claire away, hurts Richie, and believes that perfection is the only thing worth chasing. It's one of the hardest scenes in the series because the prison isn't really the freezer, it's Carmy's own mind. For all his talent, he's still the frightened kid who believes love has to be earned through perfection. That's why a tiny moment in the final season means so much. Carmy drops a plate. Earlier in the series, something so small would have triggered another spiral, and it almost does, but nobody screams, no one says anything. The people around him help him move forward. It's a reminder that he isn't working in the harsh kitchens that shaped him anymore. He's surrounded by people who care about him, and for the first time he allows himself to believe that mistakes don't define him. Ultimately, this symbolises the moment Carmy chooses to break the cycle of culinary abuse. Instead of weaponising the mistake, the way his own mentors did to him, he embraces the gentleness of his environment and begins to foster a kitchen culture rooted in safety and resilience rather than fear. And if Carmy is the emotional heart of the bear, then Richie is its emotional payoff. He's proof that it's never too late to find your purpose, even if you have to have it shown to you. He begins the series feeling lost, but like the Berzattos, he doesn't talk about it.
Yo, you ever think about purpose?
He buries it under arrogance and anger, isolating Carmy from the moment the show picks up, all because Richie wants to preserve Mikey's legacy, and Carm is disrupting the system. But that's not the case. The truth is, Mikey was the only one who was there for him, and with his loss, a part of Richie died with him. The beef was the last physical reminder of his best friend. But when Carmy sends him to Eva, his life changes. He realises that to him, it was never about the food, it was about the people. And while he's just polishing forks at first, he begins to understand that every plate is an act of care. He sees the love that Jessica, Garrett and the rest of the staff have for what they do, and the way they welcome him in, teach him and respect him gives him the belief in himself. It's not like Eva makes him a better waiter, it just reveals the purpose he always had. He was always good with people, Carmy knew it, Mikey knew it, but Eva helps him see it for himself. And that's when Richie becomes the most complete version of himself. You can see it in how he spends time working on his pre-service speeches to inspire the team, and how his confidence comes through in the way he leads the dining room. Yes, he still has moments where the anxiety and the arrogance take over, but because of the relationships he's built, he doesn't feel so alone. He becomes a truly beautiful person, taking what Garrett said about giving people the time of their lives and bringing it to fruition. Being around the Berzattos taught him how to be comfortable and to be himself, but Eva taught him discipline. They didn't stop him from being who he is, they taught him that he has purpose and to believe in that. He finally sees what everyone had seen in him all along. Unlike Carmen and Richie, Sydney isn't weighed down by the restaurant's past. She's there because she believes in its future. At first she walks into complete and utter chaos. Just like us as an audience, she has absolutely no idea what's going on. But as the series progresses, Sid doesn't learn to survive the chaos or just deal with it. She becomes the reason that the restaurant grows. She was always a great chef, an innovative chef, and so when she and Carmy connect, they really do. They bounce off each other, grow each other's ideas, and work together better than anyone else in the kitchen. Their respect for one another is never clearer than when Sydney is working on her cola braised ribs. Carmy tells her it's the best dish she's ever eaten. Coming from someone who trained in the best restaurants in the world, that's an extraordinary compliment. But it's made even more meaningful because earlier in the series, Carmy's scallop dish was the best thing Sydney had ever tasted. Neither of them are really saying, "I admire you" out loud. They don't have to. They say it through food. Not only that, but the bond she builds with Tina, Marcus, Richie, Natalie, and even the Facts are some of the purest in the whole show. She changes all of them, in one way or another. She's a catalyst. Sydney is the first person to choose the bear for what it could become, rather than what it is.
I don't listen to the world. I listen to my crew.
Even when she had the opportunity to go to a completely new restaurant, she chose to stay. And I think that's the reason the restaurant heals, because she believes in it, and the people in it. But she's not as simple as that. The characters don't just portray one emotion. Sydney isn't just hope. There are parts of her that hate this restaurant, the stress, the dysfunctionality, and the lurking threat that they could fail at absolutely any moment. She's an incredible chef, yet she finds herself doubting that she's not good enough for the pressure of the restaurant. The Sydney that first walked into the bear is completely different to the one we see at the end. She's part of the family now, she's grown with them. While at first she tries to survive the chaos, now she understands it. But that doesn't change who she is fundamentally. She doesn't adopt the Berzatto's traits, she's still her own person. She's just found a place where she feels comfortable being herself. Sydney's greatest strength isn't just her ability to cook, it's that she never stops imagining what something can become. Whether it's a dish, a restaurant, or the people around her, she sees potential where others see problems. In Tina, when she's doubting her skills as the calibre of the restaurant increases, or in Carmy when he's spiralling, she knows how to deal with it. She becomes the steady hand that stops everything falling apart. And to be completely honest, no one benefits from Sydney's belief more than Tina. Tina begins the series resisting change, not because she doesn't like it, but because she's scared of it. She found the bear by accident when she was down on her luck, and Mikey took her in, which saved her. She thinks that now that Carmy and Sid are involved, things will be different, and she'll lose the stability that Mikey gave her. But that's the opposite of what actually happens. Despite pushing back against Sydney from the moment she walked through the door, Sid believes in her and takes the time to teach her, and that's what helps her grow. She goes from being stuck in her ways, insisting that Carmy is disrupting the system, to building a new one and helping Sydney run it as her CDC. What makes her transformation so rewarding is that she doesn't lose the confidence and the attitude that made her Tina in the first place. Instead, it grows, and she now has somewhere to direct it. Tina is a living example that it's never too late to start over, even when confidence falters and change takes over. She was strong enough to carry on, learn and overcome, and she did all that because someone believed in her and created a space for her to grow. But not every character in The Bear finds himself through change. Some find it through rediscovering the joy that made them fall in love with cooking in the first place, and nobody represents that more than Marcus. When we first meet him, he cooks the buns for the beef sandwiches. He doesn't have space to explore his creativity, but as the restaurant grows and possibilities begin to seem endless, he allows himself to dive in. He doesn't simply make food anymore, he becomes obsessed with creating it. So when Carmy sends him to Copenhagen to train with Luca, he already has the love and the passion. Luca just teaches him to drive that love into mastery. And Carmy knows that, just like with Richie. He sends Marcus away because he knows he's capable of becoming even better, and it shows. He goes from experimenting with donuts in season 1 to creating a fine dining banana sundae where the caramel sauce is in the candle. But like the rest of our characters, he doesn't give up. Even when things get intense, when Carmy's outbursts threaten to shatter the passion he's built, or when his mum passes, he comes back not because he has to, but because the restaurant feels like home, and he's welcomed without a second thought. Because he's family, and because Carmy sees the potential in him. But more importantly, he comes back because the Bear has become a place where his passion is understood. It's no longer just a restaurant where he works, it's a place where he belongs. Marcus represents the purest expression of love for food in the series, not because he needs to prove anything or fix something from his past, but because creating something beautiful makes him happy. He isn't really chasing greatness, he just wants to make something meaningful. But while Marcus represents the joy that comes from creating something, Natalie represents the person who makes sure everyone has the space to create it all. Unlike the rest of our characters, Natalie isn't a prominent part of the story from the get-go. She hates the beef because she knows it's a product of Mikey and that he was unhappy. She's the sibling who appears the most emotionally stable, but that comes from years of feeling like she was responsible for everyone around her. She's there for everyone because she feels like she has to be, so when she decides to join the restaurant, it's out of pure love for Carmy. And that's what makes Natalie so important. She understands the damage that the restaurant represents, but she also understands what it could become. She isn't trying to preserve Mikey's legacy like Richie, or rebuild it like Carmy. She's trying to make sure the people she loves don't get lost inside it. But that responsibility comes at a cost. Natalie has spent so much of her life looking after everyone else that she rarely gives herself the same care. She's constantly the person trying to calm Carmy down, manage the restaurant and support her family, but underneath that is someone who's grieving too. Her relationship with Carmy is one of the most heartbreaking in the series because they understand each other more than anyone else, yet they struggle to reach each other. She knows he is suffering, but she also knows that she cannot save him by carrying his weight for him. Not only that, but she's about to build a family of her own. That adds a whole new layer to her internal conflict. She loves her family, deeply, but she also understands the damage that has been done over the years, and she wants to be the one to break that cycle. By the end of the series, Natalie's greatest achievement isn't keeping the restaurant alive, it's allowing herself to believe that she belongs in it too. She becomes a part of it, not someone observing from the outside, making sure everything stays fine. A lot of shows have great main characters. The Bear has great people. Every person who steps into the kitchen feels complete, like they've lived an entire life before this, even without it being shown. Luca is one of the most humble characters in the entire show. Despite being a world-class chef, he understands that greatness isn't about being the best. Instead, he teaches Marcus that perfection isn't something to chase. The real joy comes from learning, experimenting, and enjoying the process. When Marcus trains with him in Copenhagen, Luca never boasts about his own talent or makes Marcus feel inadequate. Instead, he creates an environment that encourages curiosity and creativity, allowing Marcus to discover his own confidence as a chef. That experience completely changes Marcus's outlook on baking. He slows down, takes risks, and begins to see mistakes as opportunities rather than failures. But Luca's impact doesn't end there. When he later comes to help with the bear, what begins as lending a hand evolves into a genuine creative friendship. Together, the two constantly push each other to improve, proving that the best mentors aren't the ones who tell you how great they are, they're the ones who inspire greatness in someone else. Mikey Berzatto appears in a surprisingly small number of episodes, yet it feels like he's in every single one. There's far more to Mikey than the few episodes he appears in, whether it's his unquantifiable love for the people around him, his charismatic nature, or the burden he carried. But one of the most important parts of his character is just how much he's influenced almost every character we meet. Richie loves him like a brother, and therefore he wants to preserve his legacy. He saved Tina and gave her stability. Mike recreated the environment that sparked Marcus's interest in baking. Carmy's entire journey is spent trying to honour his brother. Obviously he's not a saint. From the little parts we see of him, he's reckless, self-destructive and sometimes abrasive, but it's those flaws that make his kindness feel genuine and pure. He wasn't a world-class chef like Carmy. He ran a sandwich shop filled with regulars who came just as much from Mikey as they did for the food. He made people feel like they belonged, and I feel like that's such a tribute to who he was. Ibra, Tina, Marcus and Richie could have easily left when Mikey turned up and disrupted the system, but they came to understand that Mikey left the restaurant to Carmy for a reason. Staying wasn't just about honouring his memory, it was about believing in the future he wanted Carmy to build. And so they stayed. For Mikey, and eventually for Carmy too. Mikey isn't just the heart of the bear because he's constantly on screen. He's the heart because almost every story can be traced back to him. It's easy to look at Donna and see the source of the Berzatto's trauma. I don't think that's the whole story. The first time we meet her is in Fishes, an episode shaped by anxiety, dysfunction and emotional volatility. But she's one of the clearest examples that food is how this family says I love you. In Fishes, she spends the entire day cooking 7 fishes. Why? Because cooking is the only way she knows how to love her family. She isn't trying to create the perfect dinner because she's chasing perfection. She's trying to create one perfect moment where everyone she loves can simply be together. Tragically, the harder she tries to hold everything together, the more everything falls apart. Obviously, I'm not excusing the emotional damage she's caused Carmy, Nat and Mikey. It's more than visible in Fishes. She wants Carmy in the kitchen, then tells him to do 100 things and wants him out. She gets mad when Nat asks how she is, then breaks down about no one caring about her. And she doesn't even really interact with Mikey, and that communicates a lot. But like the rest of our characters, as the series progresses, so does she. By the end of season 4, she's able to sit down with Carmy and pour her heart out to him and apologise. And in season 5, she's brought into the restaurant for the first time, where she can see Carmy's journey as a chef as she flips through his notebooks. And she's trusted to watch Sophie, even when it's so important to Nat that the chaos she was brought up in doesn't affect her child. But these little moments aren't random. It's Donna being cautiously invited back into their lives, and it's her learning to believe that she deserves it too. She doesn't have to spend an entire day in the kitchen to be loved. But the beauty of The Bear is the idea that the family doesn't just exist within the Berzattos. Some of the most meaningful relationships in the series come from the people who choose to stand beside them, the ones that don't always have the spotlight, but quietly shape the lives of everyone around them. Uncle Jimmy is the perfect example of that. On the surface, he's the businessman keeping the restaurant alive, but underneath the money and the sarcasm is someone who has loved this family for years. He was there for Mikey, he's there for Carmy, and he continues to show up even when the Berzattos are at their most difficult. And that same idea extends to everyone who becomes part of the Bear. Jessica and Garrett don't just teach Richie how to be better at his job, they give him something he desperately needed, a place where he feels valued. The facts represent something similar, but just as important. Their love is unconditional. They don't ask the Berzattos to become better people before they care about them, they simply show up. And Pete might be the clearest example of this as well. He doesn't try and fix Natalie's family or erase the damage they've caused, he just loves her, even when she struggles to believe she deserves that kind of love. And that's what makes the people around the Bear so important. The restaurant isn't kept alive by blood alone, it survives because people continue to choose it, choose each other, and believe in what they can become. And that's ultimately what the Bear understands about family. Love is not about fixing people, it's about being there when they need you, even when they're messy, complicated, and imperfect. One of the Bear's greatest strengths is that it isn't afraid to change its rhythm completely without warning. Some episodes feel like a panic attack, others feel like a therapy session. And that's like our characters, the box of chocolates that they are. You never know what you're going to get. But it doesn't matter what's happening, it always feels like the Bear. I don't think that's a coincidence. These episodes mirror the people at the centre of them. The Bear understands that healing, grief, and love aren't linear, so the storytelling is neither. Most television shows establish a formula and stick to it. The Bear earns the right to break its own formula, because it understands its characters well enough that every stylistic change feels somewhat normal. From the editing to the camera work and even the pacing, it reflects the emotional state of the people we're following. Take the pilot for example, System. From the moment the kitchen is in frame, it's chaos, yet it feels deliberate. The screen is cluttered by overlapping images, conversations collide, the camera is cutting rapidly, and the editing barely gives you a second to breathe. But underneath all of that, one of the most important messages of the Bear is already being subtly communicated. We're not being eased into this world, we're being thrown into it. Much like Sydney, we simply have to keep up. But that rhythm changes when Nat is introduced. The camera is still and slow, and the music calms down. It shows a sense of stability that Nat brings. The same is true during the family scene. The chaotic noise of conflict is replaced by the chaotic noise of family. They're laughing, and the camera is close and intimate, showing just how close they are. And I feel like that's what makes Systems such a perfect introduction to the bear. The restaurant is dysfunctional, the people inside it are damaged, and yet underneath all of it is something genuine: love. A family trying in their own imperfect way to take care of each other and keep the one thing they all love alive. After 6 episodes of what felt like an endless downward spiral, episode 7 review opens with something that seems almost alien in the series: stability. The chaos is still there, it never goes, but for the first time there seems to be some kind of a team growing. Unlike System, where the tension between our characters is almost palpable, and it's half communicated through the camera, the audio and the pacing, for the first half, review feels like the complete opposite. At the start, the unbroken take communicates the growing comfort and trust among the characters. The camera flows naturally between them, reflecting a kitchen that is finally starting to function as a system. But as the episode progresses, the same technique begins to change. The continuous shot no longer feels freeing. It feels like we're trapped in the kitchen alongside the characters, unable to escape as tensions begin to rise. The audio follows the same pattern. The quiet rhythm at the beginning slowly becomes overwhelmed by shouting, music, and constant movement. Panning between characters during arguments reflects action and consequence, showing how one person's mistake immediately affects everyone around them. The constant noise in both the foreground and background creates an overwhelming sense of stress, amplified by the harsh lighting and cluttered frames. And there's one scene in particular I really like in this episode, and you'll have to hear me out because it's my personal interpretation. At the peak of the tension, Carmy smashes Marcus's donut on the floor, and that donut reflects the state of the restaurant. Up until now, all our characters have worked so hard to make it better, to make it work, but in the chaos it's fallen apart, because even though they've made progress, it's still fragile. And Carmy, staring at the donut towards the end of the episode, reflects that realisation. The smile at the end can be interpreted in 2 ways, either as Carmy finally reaching a breaking point, or as a moment of clarity. Because despite everything that's gone wrong, the donut proves something important. The restaurant is capable of creating something great. The problem was never the potential, it was learning how to survive the process. After the chaos of review, Braciole feels like a complete reset. The tension and unrelenting pressure are replaced by something warmer, more intimate, and more personal. It's one of those episodes where the dysfunction steps aside and allows the main undertone of the show to shine: love. More specifically, love through food. This episode doesn't communicate as much through its techniques. This time it's much more focused on dialogue and our characters. Sid and Marcus step away from the kitchen after the fallout, but remain connected through food. They sit in Sid's kitchen surrounded by warm light and gentle ambience, whilst they enjoy good food. That is their way of healing. Meanwhile, Carmy, who isn't as emotionally stable as the other two, throws himself right back into the chaos of the kitchen because it's the only way he knows how to cope. When Marcus comes back, Carmy apologises because he knows he needs Marcus and he loves him as much as everyone else in the kitchen. And that's the same with Sid, except it's much more subtle. It's not vocal. When she returns, he simply looks at her. And again, this is my interpretation. It's his way of saying thank you. He doesn't know how to express it, so he shows it. And it just happens to be a coincidence that food is involved, even though it's not cooking. The entire ending to Braciole is beautiful. It's one last act of kindness from Mikey, and the feeling that they're all going to be okay. As an audience, we're also reassured that the journey isn't over. The bear is coming. The terrifying thing about fishes is that almost nothing feels unfamiliar. It doesn't even feel like we've stepped away from the kitchen. The episode reveals that the restaurant didn't create the chaos, it simply inherited it. It all began around this dinner table. Unlike Review, where the camera traps us in the kitchen, Fishes makes us feel like guests at the table. We're not really sure if we want to stay, but we kind of feel inclined to. But much like the restaurant itself, the chaos is created in the same way. There's constant background noise, people everywhere, and the screen is full of colours, lights and decorations. But once food becomes involved, everything ramps up. The kitchen is messy, full and stained, and with Donna at the heart of it all, it becomes clear why the beef was run the way it was. This is the environment Mikey grew up in. This is what he knew. But it's not just Donna. Every member of the family contributes to the pressure until it finally boils over. Lee relentlessly picks at Mikey, Natalie spends all day trying to hold Donna together, and the preparation of the 7 fishes hangs over everyone like a ticking clock. Whilst the lighting throughout the entire episode is warm and inviting, the camera and ambient noise communicate the complete opposite. The alarm goes off constantly, even when the kitchen isn't in focus, and it's almost like a warning sign that something bad is going to happen. But unlike the previous episodes, love alone isn't enough. Donna spends the whole day in the kitchen, determined to give the people she loves a beautiful dinner. But despite her intentions, everything falls apart. Despite Stevie's speech, the tension never truly disappears. Mikey still clutches at the fork, Donna still reaches her breaking point, and Christmas ends exactly as the episode had been warning it would, like a car crash. It was never a question of if everything would fall apart, only when. Fishes doesn't just explain why the Berzattos are the way they are, it changes the way we see every interaction that came before it. Carmy's anxiety, Natalie's need to fix everything, Richie's aggression, and Mikey's inability to ask for help all suddenly makes sense. The restaurant was never the source of their pain, it was simply the place they brought it. But, more than anything, Fishes explains why the Berzattos remain so fiercely connected. They've lived through the same chaos, watched the same arguments, and carry the same memories. They understand each other's pain because they were all there to witness it. Their love isn't perfect, and it certainly isn't healthy, but it's real. And that's what makes it so difficult for any of them to walk away. After spending so much time showing us where these characters' pain comes from, the bear finally gives us an episode about healing. But for Richie, healing doesn't come from forgetting who he was, it comes from understanding who he is. When Richie first makes his way to Ever, his world is dark and quiet, and when he steps foot inside the restaurant, the lighting is harsh and the atmosphere feels almost alien, like he accidentally stumbled into the Discovery 1. It's nothing like the world Richie knows. The beef was loud, messy, and unpredictable. Ever is precise, calm, and controlled. Richie spends the entirety of the series up to this point believing that love is something you have to protect, like the restaurant, Mikey's legacy, and even himself. But the more time he spends with Garrett and Jessica, the more he begins to learn that love is something you can give. It's about giving people the best night of their lives no matter what, and he embodies that going forward. For the first time, Richie understands that hospitality is not just about serving food. The phrase "every second counts" becomes the opposite of the chaos Richie is used to. It isn't about rushing, it's about caring enough to make every detail matter. But not only that, as the episode continues, the environment that once felt extraterrestrial begins to feel warm and inviting, just like Richie's own world. Now, I'm not going to spend the rest of this video going in depth on every single episode of this show. I could, but I'm not going to. There are definitely moments I won't cover, but these are the ones that stand out to me because they reveal something just as important. But they all have one thing in common: they're not set in the restaurant. And I think that's important, because it reinforces that these characters aren't defined by their roles in the kitchen. They're real people. Not only that, but it adds to the show's humanity, making us feel for these characters beyond what they create in the kitchen. While Fork shows Richie discovering his purpose, Napkin shows the beginning of someone else's journey. Before Tina became one of the most respected people in the Bear's kitchen, she was someone who had been overlooked for years. At the start of the episode, she just lost her long-time job, and facing a demoralising job market, she stumbles across the beef, where Richie gives her a free drink and sandwich. She meets Mikey, who sits down and has a genuine conversation with her. I mean, real person to person. They share fears, confess jealousy, and connect in a way that seems like they've known each other for a long time. The moment is intimate, with a close-up camera and the familiar atmosphere of the beef. Mikey offers Tina a job, sensing her despair, but he doesn't take a CV. He's spoken to her, and that's enough for him. Not only does it show how much Mikey cares about the people around him, but it reveals why Tina has such a close connection to the way things were before Carmy came along, even though she isn't family. Not by blood anyway. She loved Mikey a lot, not because he was perfect, but because he made people feel like they mattered. Well, Napkin shows the beginning of Tina's journey. Sydney's episode explores something completely different, the person behind the ambition. Throughout the series, Sydney is defined by her drive. She's constantly looking forward. But because of that, we rarely get to see Sydney outside of the kitchen, outside of being a chef. And that's what makes Worms so special. For once, Sydney isn't trying to prove herself. She isn't fighting to be heard, she isn't trying to fix a failing restaurant, and she isn't carrying the pressure of becoming the next great chef. She's just spending time with someone she cares about. When her cousin runs out of hair during the appointment, Sydney unexpectedly spends the day with her niece. What begins as an inconvenience slowly becomes something much more meaningful. Over a simple meal of hamburger helper, the two connect. They talk, they open up, and Sydney gets to experience something that she rarely allows herself, a moment of genuine comfort. And that's what makes it so beautiful. Sydney spends much of the series seeing potential in everyone else, but this episode reminds us that she deserves to be seen too. But being seen isn't always enough to erase years of pain. Sometimes healing is slower, messier, and much more complicated. Ice Chips explores that idea through one of the most complicated relationships in The Bear, Nat and Donna. Ice Chips forces Nat into a position she isn't used to, vulnerability. She can't control the situation, and for once she has to let someone else take care of her. And painfully, that person is Donna. The same person that taught her she had to be strong in the first place. But Donna has her own journey this episode. Ice Chips doesn't erase the damage she caused, and it doesn't pretend years of pain can disappear in one conversation. Instead, it shows someone finally confronting the consequences of her actions while still trying to express the love she's always struggled to show. The episode doesn't suggest that everything between them is fixed, it simply shows two people choosing to understand each other, even if only for a moment. And for a family that has spent years communicating through anger, silence, and food, that moment of honesty is its own kind of love. Donna attempts to manage her own volatile nature whilst trying to calm her daughter. They confront their past traumas and damage, ultimately culminating in a tender, albeit temporary, reconciliation when Pete arrives. But it's not that the events of the episode were forgotten. Donna and Nat don't suddenly forget everything that happened, but they finally acknowledge the love underneath all the pain. Bears proves that, despite everything they've been through, the Berzattos have finally begun to break the cycle. They're still loud, still chaotic, and still emotionally incapable of saying the right thing half the time, but for the first time, the chaos feels comforting rather than destructive. The emotional centre of the episode comes when Eva hides beneath a table, terrified of dancing with Frank. One by one, everyone follows her. Carmy, Richie, Sydney, Sugar, Pete, Michelle, Stevie, Frank, they all end up crammed together beneath it. It's funny, awkward, and completely ridiculous, but it also becomes one of the most beautiful frames in the entire show. Throughout this essay, chaos has always represented trauma. The kitchen, Donna, Fisher's, review. But here, the chaos means something different. They're not hiding from each other anymore, they're hiding together. And even if the surface of that scene is just them under the table to comfort a scared little girl, it means so much more than that. Eva hides because she's scared, but instead of telling her to come out, everyone joins her. It's such a simple gesture, yet it says everything about who these characters have become. Earlier in the series, they struggled to face their own fears, let alone someone else's. Here, they don't try to fix it or tell Eva it's not real. They simply sit with her until she's ready. The Berzattos haven't stopped being imperfect, they've simply learned that facing a fear is a little easier when you don't have to face it alone. And by the time we reach Caramel and the original beef of Chicagoland, the bear no longer feels the need to prove itself. The chaos is still there, but it no longer defines the people inside the kitchen. They already know what they need to do, they trust each other, they're good at what they do, and most importantly, they're good with each other. Of course, there are still undertones of panic. For the first time, that uncertainty doesn't feel paralysing. The final exchange between Richie and Sydney is almost painfully simple.
What do we do tomorrow?
Do the same again?
It isn't a triumphant speech or a grand declaration, it's just tomorrow. Because that's what healing looks like. It isn't a finish line, it isn't a single perfect day where everything suddenly makes sense. It's waking up, showing up for the people you love, and choosing them again and again and again. The bear was never building towards a perfect restaurant, it was building towards this moment. A family that finally believes tomorrow is worth showing up for. And after 5 seasons, it becomes clear that the bear was never really about opening a restaurant. That was just a surface for a much deeper story. It's beautiful because it doesn't hide the imperfections, the anger, the stress, and the anxiety. It doesn't include them just for the sake of drama. It uses them to show what these characters are carrying. By the time you reach the end of season 1, you begin to understand why these characters argue the way they do, and as the story continues, the emotional weight only grows. By the time you reach the finale, it shouldn't be a shock how hesitant you are to let go of these characters. We've seen them grow and regress, only to become better versions of themselves. We've seen them fight, fall in love, hate, cry, and at times completely give up. But through all of it, one thing remains constant. They keep choosing each other. Now, the point of this video wasn't to declare that The Bear is the single greatest TV show ever made. It was to explain why I believe it's so special. Because beneath all of the chaos, the shouting, the mistakes, this is a show about people trying to take care of each other. Sometimes they fail, sometimes they hurt each other. And beyond the writing, the performances, and the characters, The Bear is elevated by the way it presents their world. The frantic editing, overwhelming sound design, intimate camera work, the carefully chosen music don't just make the restaurant feel alive, they make us feel what these characters feel. The chaos isn't just something we observe from a distance, it's something we're trapped inside with them. And at the centre of all this are people who are far from perfect. The Berzattos are damaged, complicated, and sometimes destructive, but the show never reduces them to just their flaws. It understands that people are more than their mistakes, because ultimately, food has never just been about the food. It's a language these characters use when words fail them. A meal is an apology, a recipe is a memory, and cooking is an act of love. For the Berzattos and everyone who becomes part of their family, food is how they communicate the things they struggle to say. When people talk about television's greatest achievements, they often point to shows that changed what the medium was capable of. They expanded our expectations of what television could be, not through bigger budgets or grander spectacle, but by trusting the audience could sit with complex people. The Bear feels like one of those shows. It refuses to simplify grief, avoid easy resolutions, and understands that real growth is often frustratingly slow. It doesn't ask us to admire its characters, it asks us to understand them. And in doing so, it quietly raises the standard for what character-driven television can be. There are plenty of incredible television shows, some redefine genres, some become cultural phenomena, others are remembered for a single unforgettable season. But every now and then a show comes along that reminds us of why television is such a unique storytelling medium. Spending dozens of hours with these people allows us to watch them change in ways a film simply couldn't capture. The Bear doesn't just tell us who these people are, it gives them the time to become who they're meant to be, and lets us grow alongside them. And maybe that's what makes The Bear feel so real. It understands that family isn't perfect, healing isn't simple, and love isn't always so easy to express. The Bear was never about building the perfect restaurant. It was about finding the people who make the chaos worth surviving, a place where you finally feel at home, a place where you can let it rip. I'm Kate from Friendly Fire, and this was The Bear.